Welcome guys to my channel. I'm Zoeb Haroon, and in today's video we are going to be talking about Canadians, Americans and Europeans living either in US, America and Canada, and how is the future, 1 year, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 and 10 years, how are they looking? So in this video, we are going to be looking at the dangers of war and in terms of what's happening in in today's society and what the current trajectory is looking. When you look into the future, maybe couple of months in, and with future pandemics coming in, and what does that mean for the average person, or the middle class or the upper middle class that are watching this video, and they're really concerned about their finances. There's a high degree of uncertainty. There's recession, possibly depression looming in the economy as well. So what does that mean for the average people that are watching these videos? So with that being said, let's get right into it. So as we see things, that there's different scenarios. Scenario number one, that the likelihood of a war happening in the next couple of months or 1 year, it's before, if you were to basically say that in between a group of people, they will just make fun of you. But the more you look into the subject, more and more people are actually anticipating that some type of world catastrophic events are going to take place, whether if it's now or whether if it's in the near term future. So what do you need to do in terms of your finances, or in terms of your likelihood or your livelihood, or in terms of surviving in these tough, harsh environments? One of the solution to all these problems is that, relocating to East Asia, or relocating to the eastern part of the world, or even south or whatever, because according to the research that I've undertaken, from what it seems like, that Europe and North America is in hot waters, and there's just a lot of drama that's unfolding every single day, every single hour, in terms of what's happening in these societies. The recession is through the roof. Inflation is through the roof. There's recession in the economy, and what's going on is that how is the average consumer paying their bills, and how are they surviving in today's harsh realities of of society in this day and age. So one of the solutions to this problem is making sure that your passport and it's ready to go, and your belongings and your that you potentially, if you were to basically get up and go, you need to know where you're going or where you're going to be moving to, because these things have a tendency to happen all too quickly without leaving anybody with any time to prepare in terms of what potentially could happen. So relatively, I'm just gonna emphasize that in this day and age, that the East is still relatively doing a lot better than the West, in the sense that the cost of living, in terms of doing business, in terms of overall lifestyle, and that you probably were maintaining maybe in the West, I would still say that it's much more doable. Places like Dubai or Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos. So there's a heavy influx of people that have already relocated, coming up from Australia, New Zealand, then from Europe, then also from Canada, America. So people, they're just starting to realize that, hey, chasing the American dream or the Canadian dream is no longer worth it, because ultimately, the way how the system is designed, with that level, with such a high degree of uncertainty, it's really hard to plan for one's life. And then people, they're looking for maybe certain types of hedges in terms of buying up maybe like Bitcoin, but that's only a $1 trillion industry. I would be more interested in commodities like gold and silver, because they have stood the test of time, and the likelihood of gold and silver being used as legal tender in the future is quite high. With the BRICS nation, I guess taking more form, for anybody who follows geopolitics and politics in general, or economics, they would see that there's a gradual shift in momentum, that it started from the east to the west, back in 60s, 70s, the roaring 60s and 70s, and when, Americas were booming, Canada was, literally was fairly in, there weren't that many people living up here. But now what is happening is that people, they feel like that they've had enough of this system, and if they cannot basically pay their bills on time, how are they supposed to have optimistic views about the future, and relatively I guess grow into the future, right? So usually at that time, when there's pessimistic views, that usually is one of the indicators of recession, possibly depression, with, I guess, bank runs and bank collapses, and there's just this entire fiasco is just greatly taking shape. So what does that mean for yourself and for your family, and where would you like to be? God forbids, if a global catastrophe happens again, would you like to basically be stuck along with everybody else, or would you like to, plan ahead? And even if you're not doing anything, I understand everybody's caught up in the system, and in the current economy, they're just looking to pay their bills, and just trying to stay afloat. So what you could do, this video is out there for everybody, watching. We're a community of people where, we're looking at, potentially what could potentially be options of people that tomorrow, if they decide to get up and go, or what do they need to do, where they need to go, because I still consider this region of the world as somewhat of a safe haven. Nobody really knows for sure, but if you have to pack up and take your chances, where would that be? That's a question that you got to ask yourself. Because ultimately, Asia, I still think this is where a lot of commerce is still happening. Trade hubs, weather is relatively hotter climate, so it's easier to basically survive. Cost of doing business is quite low. And especially, the problem that's happening in the West is that, cost of doing business has gone up because of high fuel prices, and on top of it, rising interest rates, and with a lot of inflation, and people, they're not able to afford groceries. And one of the things that I did say in my other videos, that inflation, by the time your real estate is inflated, that's one problem, but people can still live with that. But the day when that inflation all seeps in the very end, the last place for inflation to go is food. And now basically what's going on is that inflation has made its way into food, and this is where you see people, they're quite stressed out. And still, if you basically come in, usually, to this region of the world, life is still affordable. People are still, I would say, thriving. The people are moving up. They're making a lot of money, and the opportunity for growth is quite high. So, I want to leave you with this thought in this video, and I'm going to make a follow-up video where we're going to basically do a little bit more detailed analysis into different places and places that you could potentially go. But it's never a bad idea. If you're single, or if you have a family, or with kids, or whatever your circumstances are, you need to have basically an exit strategy, an emergency plan. Unfortunately, because in this day and age, no one's really talking about this. Entertainment is out full blast, or sports or whatever, but no one's talking about this great subject that is basically taking people back, and making them think that am I gonna still be around in the next couple of years? That is actually something very sad. But I guess it is happening, so all that we could do on our side is to basically be better prepped, just in case if you have to get up and go from the west back to the east. Where would that be? So this is a question that I leave you guys with in this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to make more follow-up videos, and I'm going to be linking that towards the end of my video. So have a nice day, guys. See you on the next one.